Hello and welcome to this walkthrough of the Business Environment AAT assessment. So I've got the tasks here, tasks 1 to 8 sort of set up. But before we're going to go into this one, I'm going to do a bit more of an introduction about how we're going to go about actually passing this exam. So we've got this going on for an hour and a half, but in terms of how we're going to go about it, 4 key points that we're going to go about, because the pass rate isn't great for this unit. And it's because really I think there's a way you need to go about it that students aren't doing. So first of all, 4 points. Key one really, or first point number 1, sometimes we're going to have to roll with things in this exam. There's a lot of questions that come through where you're given sort of multiple choice 50-50 answers, and the issue that has, and let's see, you might have one where it says the finance department needs to provide X, and is it going to go to the warehousing department or the operations department? Now, as the finance director and also as well as the operations director, I'm looking at that one and thinking I'd be picking one answer, and the examiner's picking another answer. I still can't see how sometimes the examiner gets to the answers that it gets to sometimes in the 50-50 questions. So there's sometimes where I'm afraid you're just going to have to roll with it. And what the important thing there is that doesn't put you off, and you don't go to pieces for the rest of the exam. You just simply go, right, okay then, that's a coin toss. I'm going to get 50-50 on, let's say, 10 marks throughout the exam. We'll go through here and I'll sort of go through and we'll actually, what we're going to do is we're going to mark those ones as being wrong almost in the exams. We're going to see what the impact is on the scores at the end of it, really. So we'll mark those as being wrong, see whether we can still pass even getting every single one of the 50-50 ones, the ambiguous sort of questions wrong. Where I'm going, right, okay, it could be one way or the other. I think what really that means is there's probably about 5 to 10 of those marks throughout it. So you'll be getting somewhere between sort of 3 and 5 marks out of 10 marks really. So you're going to be a bit behind the curve on those questions. Is it fair? No, it's not. But it is what it is. You just got to roll with it. Now, second thing then, because we've got to roll with it on those ones, we've got to make those marks up elsewhere. And what happens typically is that students don't like to write. So this is the first time you're going to have to write as an accountant. Writing as an accountant is very different to writing as your GCSE English papers or English literature with Mr. Darcy going over the Yorkshire Dales or whatever, and an English literature class. It's the exact opposite of the way in which you're taught to write in a English GCSE, or in academic writing with essays, and if you do degrees or whatever. So accountancy writing is the exact opposite of this one here. It's going to be very clipped and to the point, very short sentences, short paragraphs, two sentences to the paragraph, 4 lines to the paragraph, no more than that really, maybe 5 lines, but certainly no more. Don't waffle. Later on when we're going into levels 3 and 4, you'd be doing bullet points and that kind of thing. We're going to go through that. We need to be able to write. Now, often people find it difficult to start writing. So how do we start writing? Well, first of all, we have pretty much of a straight way that we write as accountants. We state, we explain, and we extend. So we state a point. So we'll have one in here where we're going to say you have deducted a prompt payment discount from the amount, and you were not entitled to it. Then you're going to explain, you weren't entitled to it because we don't offer prompt payment discounts, although you may consider that is industry practice. It isn't with ourselves. And then we're going to extend it and say, I'm sure you can appreciate that we can't afford that because we haven't built that into the price. In there though, we're going to let you off on this instance there, but going forward, we do value your custom, but please, don't do it again. Upsides and downsides. We're going to consider the upsides and downsides. So upsides, we're going to tell this customer to go bug off. Well, there's an upside that we would avoid the prompt payment discount cost to us, but the downside is that we've lost that customer forever. So, if we're trying to think, well, how are we going to soften the blow on that writing? Well, we're thinking of the downsides. Okay, right. So we'll write on that point of view, and we'll make some kind of nice statement about it, and that's the general way in which we're going to write. So, state, explain, extend. And there's an upside and there's a downside to state, explain, extend. Now we've got 6 boxes there effectively. If you're thinking about that there though, and you do a bit at the start in terms of, let's say this was a letter, I think it's a letter in the example, and there we're going to go dear whatever, and then we're going to get it right in terms of, if we're going name, their first name, dear Sarah, I think in this instance, kind regards, dear Mrs. whatever, yours sincerely, to dear Sir, madam, yours faithfully. Get that in the start and do the points in the middle, cleared the points, and we're done. So we get full marks in the written questions, as opposed to getting really low marks in the written questions, which is what everyone typically gets. Really good double entry bookkeeping. We need to, because we're going to have this point number 1 where we're sort of struggling a bit, really we lose a few marks, we need to get banging 100% on the double entry bookkeeping questions. So the way in which I teach double entry bookkeeping in the Introduction to Bookkeeping unit, and that book in particular, going with positive money, negative money, and not using dead click, and using the accounting equation as assets equals liabilities plus capital, and not using assets minus liabilities equals capital, means that you have really solid double entry bookkeeping for this particular exam. And that's the point of why I teach it in that way, so that you got a position in the Principles of Bookkeeping Controls exam, and also in here. That's not following the way in which the AAT website sets that out, in terms of the AAT portal. However, as somebody who's played the game for real, and did management accounts for real 30 years ago, that's how you do it. So perhaps that knowledge has been lost over time in there, and you only get the occasional chartered accountant who turns up who actually learned using having to prepare manual books of account, sort of explaining, well, no, you wouldn't really do it like that. So really good double entry bookkeeping, use the 2 books out sort of set. And then we've got the wider knowledge, and what we'll do is we'll go through this exam, and then I'll start to produce the playlist for that, and we'll go through the wider knowledge, like and the courts and what have you. So that's the plan. So that's the strategy we've got coming into this exam. It's important to have that one there, write those down, and I'll sort of talk those through, and I'll explain exactly how we're going to do it in the questions, and we'll crack on with this exam, shall we?